Hello and welcome back to Boring Dad Gaming, where today we're going to be playing some more Roottreemania. Now, I'm not exactly sure how long it's going to take to do this bit. I'm kind of assuming it's going to take a little bit of time. Basically, we've got to say whether people are possible Roottrees. Oh, this is... I didn't see this before. This is good. It actually gives us the relevant evidence. Oh, that's going to be so helpful. So, I found all of these so-called smoking guns. Have I found all of them? I've only got I've got 11 of 15 for David Fellows. There are a few clues I haven't got yet, so that's maybe worth further investigation. For these boys, 4 out of 5. Well, but I mean, that might be enough for us to make an educated guess. Found all those. And I found all these. Awesome. Okay. Well, that's going to be really helpful, actually. So we need to do those. We need to kind of... I don't know if it's going to be anything hugely conclusive in any of the cases. Like we've, as you've seen, we've seen most of the evidence already. But maybe we can just kind of intuit a most likely explanation. Because all we're doing is saying... Oh, okay, we do say is, isn't, might be. So we need to... Okay, so maybe there is conclusive evidence, but we need to examine those again. And then there's this person. We found 3 of 6 clues. Unknown name. Now, they're listed in the anonymum. I'm pretty sure this is going to be Ruby. But we'll... let's follow the rest of the evidence first. So let's start with the earliest. Let's go to Frank. So he was in construction. Let's work our way through these. Just remind ourselves about Frank. Most of the relevant rumors. Guy. Probably going to be down here, isn't it? Antonelli's. So. Yeah, I'm not seeing how this is relevant so far. Maybe down near the bottom? Oh, here we go. So this, if we remember, I think the relevant thing here is this entry about Elias. So, Sam always got the impression that Gwyneth was able to coerce Elias into allowing Sam back into the family using some kind of leverage, such as blackmail, such as knowing that he's got a secret love child out there, instead of it being a natural course of events. She mentioned, so this is how we worked out that it was Bess Williams, so that's probably less relevant, although it does kind of confirm that. Then we have... Okay, I'm just going to have to go back and forth a little bit. So Lauren Roottrees one. This is where she mentions the lisp, so I think that's the relevant info here. Yeah, so we're going to have to go back and forth a little bit. Got Frank's entry. I'm not going to read all this because I've already read this in previous episodes, but let's just try and pluck out what we think is the relevant points. Struck down with a bullet, managed to carry a fellow soldier, died in 96. Grew up an orphan because his family died in a hurricane. We know Bess died in a hurricane. Barely remember his mother Bess. Had no memory of his father, which isn't particularly helpful, but again suggests it could be Elias. Killed in a hurricane. So I think that's the relevant info. I mean, I'm 100% sure he is Bess Williams' son. But I think the only thing... I don't think we can say definitively he is or isn't. So it's got to be option C. He might be. How do we prove it? He's dead. No memories of his father. But we know his mother very likely had an affair with Elias. But again, it's basically hearsay, isn't it? So I think under the circumstances, I think I have to conclude that Frank is a maybe. Alright, let's move to the next. So we have Stuart Clementine. There's only 2 relevant pieces here. So let's look at those. We've got Mary Beth. His mum was a singer. Traveled around the country at churches. Her repertoire was a mix of religious popular songs. One thing she was known for was her adoptions. Mention adoption, the history of adoption. She adopted 2 children in the late 40s, Stuart and Mark. So she spoke in front of Congress, detailing her experience of going through the adoption system for Stuart. Her other son was adopted later, and according to a single line on one adoption site, under unusual circumstances. So maybe a bit more of a question mark there. In 59 surfaced that she'd been twice divorced, both times to manager. Okay, and she's no longer with us. So I think in Stuart's case, I mean, we could look in here. There's a bit more info here, I think, about Mark. It also mentions the unusual circumstances of her second son's adoption have prevented her from touring. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. But I think, I mean, this seems like this is a pretty straightforward legal adoption through the adoption system. Doesn't seem a lot of question marks around him. So I think we can conclude that he is not a genetic Roottrie. However, his brother's going to be a bit of a different story. Now, we do have all the evidence here. Obviously, I've just read the Mary Beth Clementine, so this and this will talk about the unusual circumstances. Let's look at the basket baby. Gospel singer named Mary, so this is Mary Beth, once found herself dealing with a real-life baby Moses situation. Apparently, she was a rather prominent supporter of the concept of adoption. And someone decided to test how much. They left a baby on her doorstep in a basket. According to the site, she adopted him without question and raised him as her own son. Went on tour with her as he grew up. None of the websites state who the woman or baby were, likely to prevent people looking into either of them too closely. From context, you know that it's Mary Beth Clementine who would later be shunned due to her personal life, and her son Mark, who would later be known as Crocodile Clementine. So he's the basket baby. He arrived in quote-unquote unusual circumstances that prevented her from being able to tour churches. Pregnancy, ... question mark? Seems kind of possible, doesn't it? Now, the Tostarito one, I don't need to look this up again. Basically, when he punched out Billy Sims and got in trouble, he got bailed out by Tostarito, who is the sister of Miracle... Well, it's Miracle's... it's not daughter-in-law. I don't know what relation she counts as, but basically his daughter-in-law's sister, whatever that is. So definitely in the... So, I mean, it was a large amount of money. I can't remember if they put a value on it, but it was quite a large amount of money that she paid. And bear in mind, she's someone who is legally changing her name after a Mexican food. Probably is not a lady of extreme means herself. So it's maybe implied that Miracle or Miracle Jr. Would have provided the funds through her. So where does that leave us? What's Edith? Oh yeah, so this is this just explains that Edith and Lucinda are sisters. So okay. So what do we have? We have someone who wasn't adopted through the legal adoption system, who was bailed out of trouble either by Miracle, his son, or, you know, at least someone on his line of the Roottree tree. His mother, it was probably she couldn't go touring while she was pregnant, or at least showing pregnant. Is it impossible to prove? I don't know. I mean, Mary Beth is dead. Is he a blood relative? I mean, look at him. He looks like if we I don't want to be guided too much by this, but if we go up and look at, I don't even know if I can get the tree up here with Mark there, but remember what Mark looks like, and then look at these guys. They're Miracle's children. You know, you got kind of the square jaw, the blonde hair, and then you go back to old Marky Boy here. In fact, I might be able to get them on the same screen. Oh, I can't get his brother, but... I think you could reasonably say that he is a Roottree. I think I feel confident in saying that he is a blood relative because I think it's fairly clear that Miracle thinks he is. Otherwise, why would he have paid his bill? Let's say that Mark is a blood relative. I mean, I don't know if these are going to get like confirmed in sets or at the end, and it'll tell us whether we're right or wrong, or give us the chance to change things, perhaps. I'm inclined to leave David for a sec because these guys might be slightly easier. I am missing a bit of evidence. What else have we got? I've got all of Min's. So let's think. I'm inclined to say Min is. I mean, if we only saw this stuff in the last episode, so if we think his mum was obsessed with Robert Redford, we know she came to America, we have reason to suspect that it wasn't an IVF birth. It seems likely that it was made to look like one, but was actually a natural birth. If we think about her Robert Redford obsession, I mean, Guy Hudson, who was in China, did business with their business. It just seems to me that that probably is a blood relative. I mean, if we accept that nothing here is going to say, yes, this person is definitely a Roottree, otherwise they wouldn't have commissioned us to look into it, would they? But I think given that set of circumstances, I think it's reasonable to say that she is a blood relative. Now, who else have I got evidence for? Okay, so we've got Flavio Suarez. Now, this was a while ago, so I might need to look at these again. It's interesting the company records are there. What does this refer to? Was this the year of the Christmas tree bash? Is that why it's referring to this? I think that must be. Or 81. One of the two. I think probably the 81. Okay. Transmiss Sao Paulo. Received a significant inheritance in 1980. So I think, because we know from other entries, and I don't know if it's one of the ones that's going to be listed here, we know from previous entries that Guy would offer, for want of a better term, hush money to those he got pregnant. So I think the significant inheritance is the hush money. It's around the same time. Continue working television. Okay, she's very mysterious. There's not a lot about her online. I don't know if I've seen this, or if I have, I don't remember it. Okay, interesting. So, she was forced into marriage at the age of 15 in 73 as a child bride. Past appearances with her husband have been for show. They do not live together, and that she resents her own parents for the arrangement. Final claim was that she must have made her money under the table through nefarious and possibly illegal means during Brazil's dictatorship, as his research uncovered that she could not possibly have earned enough to start a media company otherwise. unless she got some hush money. After making this statement, the reporter went into hiding in fear of his safety. So again, we're forced to kind of make a best guess here, I think. We know that Guy went to Brazil. We know that he's been pictured with her. We know that she was in a loveless marriage and possibly they did end up splitting up and possibly, you know, looking for love, as it were. We know that Guy Hudson paid her a large amount of money, enough to start a media empire. So I think I'm leaning towards Flavio being a blood Rootree. I think that makes sense to me. Okay, so we're going to say that Flavio is, and then we've got these two. Have I got their? Okay, there's not a huge amount of evidence for these guys, but we have it all. So what do we know? Well, we know that they. Okay, so just to sum up what we know, Susan, their mother, was initially Guy's interpreter. She'd travel around with him to different countries. We know through, in fact, I don't even think it's one of the ones here, through Cicely Sanchez's interview, I think she said that Susan had basically come up on Guy's behalf and propositioned her for some kind of menage a trois with Guy. So definitely she was definitely sort of involved in the steamier side of his life, shall we say. She stayed within the company for a few years. She left immediately upon his death, it looks like. It looks like she sort of she named the wing of her school after him. We know that her husband at the time was arrested because he thought that it wasn't his child. So he obviously had reason to suspect that something had gone on there. So honestly, I think taking all that into account and looking like, you know, if we've said these are his children, I haven't got to that one yet. I think it's reasonable to assume that these are both his children. And they were twins, so it's from one impregnation, shall we say. I was going to say one incident, but it's probable that that's not the case. So I'm going to say both twins are blood relatives. There's nothing there to confirm. So we are left with the chefs. So let's go to them. Now I might need to remind myself a bit here. This one gets a little bit circuitous, I think. Now, their evidence is the same. These guys aren't twins, however, so let's keep that in mind. Let's look through these, just remind ourselves. So this is Sam Madson's book. Talks about his private parties, some hearsay, one of Sam's. So yeah, so this Elizabeth was Christine's mum, we know. Elizabeth had a daughter, Christine, who Sam never met, but who worked as one of Guy's secretaries, which we know is true. According to Elizabeth, a caterer from a local restaurant called Antonelli's, who is Steve, I believe, met her daughter at one of Guy's parties. So Steve met Christine at one of Guy's parties, and they eloped quickly due to a pregnancy. Elizabeth wasn't aware that the party was for swingers. Rumour has it that her daughter showed up with Guy and didn't seem comfortable switching partners. Okay, my thoughts on this are that if Steve and Christine met at the party and eloped quickly due to a pregnancy, that, I mean, quickly suggests that she was already pregnant at that point, as opposed to getting pregnant there. Elizabeth wasn't aware. Rumour has it that her daughter showed up with Guy. So Christine was more or less dating Guy at the time and didn't seem comfortable switching partners, as if, you know, she was with Guy. She wasn't really into the swinger thing. She was just with Guy. That kind of moves on to other stuff. James and Robert. So this is the elder. Two brothers, blah, 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 blah. So Robert, 3 years younger. So we might get a birth date in one of the other entries. My father was a chef and my mother grew up on a farm that supplied his restaurant. That's how they met. So that, okay, so even though she met at one of Guy's parties, she perhaps wasn't an employee at the time? She was working on the farm? Or it wasn't a secretary at the time, rather? Something to check. We're going to need to, probably one of the other, I haven't looked but or noticed, but probably one of the other entries is the employee records. Unfortunately, when we moved, they were looking to open their own restaurant together. Unfortunately, they never got it off the ground. His line cook gig ended up being less temporary than he hoped, and she had to go back to work as a secretary even after Robert was born. Before we were old enough to go to school, we spent our days with my aunt. Okay, so let's... Yeah, we've got the company records here. So, this is Guy taking over. Christine is hired, 76. She gets married in 77. And it is as a secretary. So if we get... So 3 years later... well... 3 years after Robert had been born. Well, let's go through and just see if she appears again. Christine's left in 78. And this is when they went to start their own restaurant, I think. And her mum left as well. And then the next year... Now, she's not mentioned again. But would she have come back as a temp? 3 years after... So she would have come back about 1980, would she not? Oof, okay, so it's quite confusing. Do. Oh no, so so there's 3 years between them, but she didn't join back 3 years later. She had to go back even after he was born. Well, we've seen that. So she was there, then she left to start her own restaurant, then she came back. Robert had already been born, but James hadn't yet. So if Robert was born around 78 and she came back, but he wasn't born until like 81, 82. Guy was dead, or soon to be. Which suggests, so there's question marks over Robert, I would say, but does suggest that James, I don't think links into the Guy Hudson timeline as well. But we do know, okay, so we do know that there's a piece of evidence I haven't found yet. Local author, Kitchen Tales. So did I look for kitchen tales? I can't remember now. Mark Zimmer, copy. What if we put it as Steve Garland? What was it? Garnishing the Truth. I'm pretty sure we've seen this. I'm guessing this didn't enter my evidence. I mean, I'm assuming that I've searched for these books. Apparently not. Why would I not have spider searched that previously? I don't know. Story-based recipe book credited to Mark Zimmer that had some success after it was featured on a morning talk show. The book released before the internet was widespread, so mentions are rare. One book collector states that the publishers were unprepared for the demand, and that there was no second printing, so it's unusual to find a copy. You find an alternative medicines website which focuses on cooking with natural ingredients. It mentions that one of the Kitchen Tales recipes used salt water. We've got a scan of the recipe. She says, if you switch out the salt water in the recipe for a mix of 2/3 spring water and 1/3 filtered seawater, it tastes great. Okay, let's have a look. I guess first of all, yeah, so this actually is the last bit of evidence. Oh god, okay. Well, I'm not going to read it there, but for 2 years, two bakers, Flora and Yates, flirted. They grew their friendship. Remember, he kind of used... So that this Mark, who wrote the book, stole the stories from Steve. So this is basically Steve's story. For years, two bakers, Flora and Yates, flirted. They grew their friendship, compared recipes, and combined knowledge. She loved his salt and pepper beard. I don't think we have a picture of Steve, do we? So I don't know if that is him. Seems likely it was. He adored her rosemary cheeks. They thought sweetly about one another. But he was one day whisked away, conscripted to bake the army's bread. By the oil of the lamp, Flora's tears began to salt her bread. It was 10 to 12 years later that they met again, seemingly by fate. Flora's unique dough had earned her a position as the king's personal baker. Yates had found success as well. He baked for the kingdom's 45 diplomats. One day they returned from the Dutch Isles with a gift, 450 unbaked loaves, and were sent to the palace bakery to teach a method that required no kneading. Upon seeing Yates, Flora was both delighted and distraught. She felt as if she was torn in two. She had not been made aware of the gift and had already presented buns for the palace ovens. Oh, bun in the oven. Okay. She wished to greet Yates warmly, but was struck by fears that he'd be unable to bake with her, that she'd face retribution for being unprepared. She cried to Yates, adding more salt to her dough. Yates eased her pain. He insisted she had no obligation to prepare for a return she thought impossible, but he shared her fear of retribution. He knew if they did not solve her predicament, they'd miss their final chance to bake together. In the end, instead of wallowing in the present, they worked together to shape the future. They twisted and entwined their doughs and baked them as one. Thus was born the plaited loaf. Word quickly spread of this new delight. The king's decree on royal parchment was that it would be considered a delicacy, so I think we can assume the king is Guy in this scenario. So I think it sounds like they decided to keep the baby, raise it, and Guy was fine with this. Bankrolled by the king. Okay, so again, he's given them hush money. Flora and Yates spent their days baking together. They travelled for 45 years, then settled down for 15 more. Their souls were golden with no regrets. Right, so this kind of tells the story then. If we assume that Flora is Christine and Yates is Steve, then they actually knew each other when they were a lot younger. It sounds like he was either drafted or joined the army. And then about a decade later, they met up again. But by then, she was working for Guy and was pregnant. Had already prepared buns for the palace ovens. I mean, that just suggests that, yeah, Christine was already pregnant when she re-met Steve after a decade. So I think with that, So James is the elder. I think with that we can say that he is. It just with the hush money and everything, it just seems likely. Now Robert's a different story because although we've got the same evidence, he's 3 years younger. So at this point, Christine, I think she'd come back to work as a secretary at some point, but the timelines don't quite match. They also don't look that similar. I think because she'd left and there was no... Yeah, I don't think he is. I think he's not a Roottree. There we go. Wait a minute. I didn't notice this before. These guys, is that why they're sectioned off? Oh, they're the only ones on this tree that are sectioned off. Is that because there's doubt about whether they're actually root trees or not? 2 out of 12. Okay, it might just be because it's a lot of evidence that we found in the first game that we just need to re-find. Oh, goodness me. Okay. Well, that's food for thought. At least down here, we've investigated all of these that we know about, except for David, he's got quite a lot more stuff going on. Going to check the time of the video. Okay, so look, we're at just over half an hour, so I think we got some headroom in this. I don't think we're going to get everything wrapped up though, not with this file and the guys up here. I can't get over far enough, but Robbie and Ronald. But let's look at David Fellows anyway. So this one's interesting because this is the one that had the positive DNA test. And the Anonymum stuff's coming up here is smoking gun evidence. A lot of stuff with Ruby Spratt as well. I think we should look down through the evidence and just see what we've got here. So we kind of know the story though. This is one we spent a long time looking at. So he appeared on News Time with the photo that's on our evidence wall. Concerns his insistence that his father was Guy Hudson. The story was dramatic and sensational and dismissed as fake until a DNA test proved that he was related to Guy Hudson. He doesn't look like Guy at all. 5P says that his mother, Joanna, was Zach Morden's secretary when he retired, and then Guy Hudson's secretary for only 1 or 2 weeks after that before she quit. The first few weeks that he was president. His parents divorced when he was 4 after his father learned of the affair. Felix and his mother then moved to Portland because she was afraid for her and her son's life. Now, I don't know if when I was... because this was right at the beginning of the game. I don't know if I had the Portland newspaper at the time of this, so it might be worth looking, because there's quite a bit of evidence missing. Looking for these two. Yeah. He grew up with her until he was 16, but one day his mother never came home from the movie rental store where she worked. Next morning they found her dead from an overdose. All he has to remember her by was a hairbrush she was used. Okay, so that's probably where they got the DNA, right? Some photos and a stuffed animal. But then he found it, a box hid in the back of her closet. Inside were love letters and photos related to Guy Hudson, as well as a letter from his father containing threats. He threw it all away, with the exception of the one photo he appears with on the cover of News Time. He says it was the only one where they were dressed, the only one not from the affair itself. The magazine also includes some additional history about 5P's career. Felix Fellows was born to Riley and Joanna Fellows, but has never rapped without a moniker. He tried to find success by opening for other artists and even by selling CDs on street corners in Portland. We've definitely got to look him up in the Portland newspaper. He has only recently started going as 5P's to harness the power of his lineage. The writer did some research into the truth of these claims and was able to confirm that Joanna did work for the Roottrees company as a secretary sometime during the early to mid-70s. It also confirmed she died of a drug overdose and that Felix went into foster care soon after. They were unable to track down his father. They also reached out to the Roottrees company But at the moment, the company's blanket statement was boilerplate. So let's, before we go any further, let's just look him up then in the Portland Telegraph. Look up Joanna Fellows first. Mentioned around the time of her death. The second time are the details about the night she disappeared. She was a single mother who worked at a video rental store. She's... okay. What about Felix then? I'll also look up his stage names. Confirmed to be a Roottrie. Nothing appears to be new information. Rehashes the Times article. Did review his latest album. Okay, what if we look for 5Es? What else did he go under? I did all this very early on. Yeah, so he did Dirty Davy, Dirty Devil. I think probably maybe the best thing to do is just go to the... oh yeah, because David's not his original name, is it? Oh. Dirty Devil? Okay, Dirty Davy. So we did stage shows in Portland under this name, so this might come up. You find an article about the dedication ceremony for the local Portland landmark called the Fountain of Youths. We'll look that up. Apparently, at the unveiling, the mayor of Portland made a speech, and there were performances by multiple local entertainers, ribbon cutting. Calls out that all of the performers and speakers, with the exception of the mayor, were foster care alumni. Most of them grew up together as close friends. This includes poets, musicians, and dancers. Dirty Davy was listed. So if we also then look for that... oh, same thing. What if we just spider search that then? I mean, I may already have done that, but maybe I haven't. Foster Fountain, small park in Portland. All proceeds in the... oh yeah, this is the one where people throw change at the plinths or whatever it is, and they donate it. A website for the Parks and Rec mentions it was originally conceived by Ruby Spratt, an alumni of the foster care system. Hello. Huh. I may have seen this. I remember reading the word valedictorian, but let's have another look at this article. Ruby Spratt was featured in when she was in high school, local teen making change for foster care system. So Ruby grew up in the foster care system, was apparently the valedictorian of her school, and was a Girl Scout, earning her Gold Award. She raised money for the Foster Fountain. So there's a link between her and Felix. Which is very interesting. Yeah, I just wanted to look up his might be down here again. Dirt poor. Mixtape released in '96. One of the songs includes someone revealed to be his own distant cousin, Raina. So he was singing about being attracted to Raina, but then took her name out. Maybe because if he was claiming to be a Roottree, that was suddenly in very bad taste. Alright, let's go back to here. So... we need to look up his mum in these files, so... yeah, so Joanna Robertson was her maiden name. She's there as Fellows, but then a year later she leaves, which is pretty much around the time Guy was taking over. At the start of '78. So she actually leaves before Guy becomes president. Now, the interesting thing about this, and I do remember this detail because it always seemed a bit incongruous to me when I was originally going through the info. Is this bit about the 17 magazine thing, yeah? So he's interviewed in there. So he writes this. I mean, it says it explicitly in here, but there's doubt about his age. Maybe it wasn't this entry, but okay, so it says that this song was written on his 17th birthday. They mentioned Dharma, so... So I think it's suggesting that he is claiming to have been 17 in 92. So that would put him at being born in 75. Or as early as 70. I mean, I guess... I never did find kind of... Oh, something else has been added here, but... Yeah, I never did find... Yeah, let's just look at these. This is the one where he's saying he wants Roottreemania, yeah? Now, did I look this up? The album is mostly materially made for his mixtapes before he became notable, but re-recorded with lyrical differences. He'd retained the infamous celebrity lawyer Stevie Whitlock to sue his family. Did I look up Stevie Whitlock? Did I look this up in... Okay. Yeah, this is the one that cast doubt on his birth. Year of his birth. The only people... Inity references a popular movie from '92 called White Man Can't Jump. Love the movie. Great film. This reference caused some confusion. Because of it, it's agreed upon that the mixtape had to come out in 1992 at the earliest. But others pointed that Fellows references seeing the movie on his 17th birthday, which would have been in '94. Some take this to mean that the album had to have been released in '94 at the earliest. Others claim that he was likely just trying to make himself sound older, since in response to some of the more questionable lyrics, he has stated multiple times that he was just a dumb kid when it was released. Now this always seemed slightly incongruous, as I said when I was looking at it before, but actually, if he was born in '75, that was 2 years before his mum joined the company. I mean, she is there in '75, but this... Yeah, so she was Zach's secretary. But if he's claiming to be 17 in '94, then she would have left the company... Wait. Ugh. So which way round is it? Was he born earlier or born later? If he's younger than he's claiming, then she would have left the company before he was born. So if he was 17 in '94... Yeah, he'd have been born in '77. It doesn't rule it out, I guess, but... Okay, so I think these two entries, I think they're suggesting that... Everything kind of suggests that he was 17 in '92, which puts his birth at sometime in '75, '76. Which I think it implies that he was born while Zach was still president. And if she was Zach's secretary, it makes it unlikely that she would have got involved with Guy. I mean, everything suggests that Guy only sort of started his swinger lifestyle, to this extent at least, once he was president. I haven't seen any suggestions that he was doing that earlier. Which I think makes it unlikely that Joanna was one of his ladies. I mean, they are photographed together. That's undeniable. So I'm not quite sure how Anonymum comes into it yet. We can have a look, remind ourselves of this. So this was another high... This one was unproven, or rather it was rejected. Potential new Roottree being added to the Clancy Trust. She claimed she'd slept with Guy Hudson, that her daughter was a Roottrie. The accusation came during the height of Roottreemania and began with a brief TV interview. She appeared in the shadows with a disguised voice and promoted an article about herself in News Time. In the TV interview and the article, she referred to her daughter as Jane Doe Roottree. So her story, Anonymous' story, is similar to Five Pieces. Okay. Even include many of the same details as some other stories. This included her job, secretary, in the time period late 70s. Now I still have in my notes, it never really came up, but I do have these two. I don't know if that works. We'll have a look at the secretary stuff. After fumbling the 5P story so publicly, the Roottree are more prepared to handle all Clanshead Trust-related cases. Within a week, a DNA test proved that Ammon's daughter could not be related to the Roottree. This was announced at a joint press conference with lawyers representing each party. Each party ensured their respective clients provided accurate samples. Immediately after the negative results were released, many of those who had already been sceptical felt vindicated. Others, who had built up hope that history could repeat itself after 5Ps, felt duped. Many people suspected that the whole affair had been a hoax to gain fame and money. Many demanded that Anonymum be held accountable, and some people even began to attempt to track down her true identity. Okay, the Roottrees company felt pressured to put out a sex tape. What if we search for Jane Doe Roottree? Same deal. Okay, I think that's already in. That was already in my evidence. That cover. I might go back and look at it. Oh, I don't think I've seen this before though. Piketty is. Yeah, okay. So they go into a bit more detail about this Anonymum thing. She worked as a manager at a department store in North Carolina, and her daughter's name was Courtney May. Interesting. Okay. They also said that the woman that vouched for her famous cover story. They didn't identify news time, is named Corrine S. And that she'd filed for bankruptcy. The article speculates that Anonymum and Corrine were in on it together, and even speculate that they might have been lovers. Piketty is not a credible publication. Their information wasn't particularly actionable, and very few people seem to notice or care. Has this entered into evidence, by the way? No. However... the name is familiar. Right. Okay, so yeah, they joined at the same time. And they left at the same time. That does suggest a link between them. I think I picked up on the names Lisa Lewis and Valerie Ewing just because they joined at the same time. I think I kind of missed that these two did as well. I think Beatrice Watts is interesting. If I look back here... what if this is Anonymum? In which case, I think this is going to be Beatrice. Because it does say, although we've got the name of Corrine, it does say that she's speaking on behalf of a friend. Let me just go back to this stuff. Anonymum worked as a manager at a department store. Her daughter's name was Courtney May. They also said that the woman that vouched for the famous cover story is named Corrine, and that she had filed for bankruptcy. So this, I guess, implies, say, retail? Have I got a Courtney May here? I do. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. North Carolina. So I don't know if that means she's going to appear in anything that interesting. Let's keep looking. So if we do... I've already forgotten her name. What was... Beatrice Watts. Oh, hello. Courtney May has a simple website with black text on a white background and a few images. From the view counter you can tell you're one of only a few hundred people who's visited it. She's not shy about claiming she is Jane Doe Roottrees. As proof, she has posted an unobscured cover from the time she was featured on Newstime, as well as a different picture of herself that appears to be a wedding photo. The website seems to be created in defense of her mother, who has been the target of public scrutiny. Under the headline, The True Story of Jane Doe Roottree, courtesy of Courtney May Newton, formerly Watts, Courtney May writes, Everyone has everything wrong. My mum approached the Roottrees before 5Ps was ever on the cover of Newstime. Nobody at the Roottrie company took us seriously. They only listened to us after we appeared on TV and in magazines. The site has a scanned letter from the Ruby legal group to Courtney May's mother Beatrice. In very polite legal terms, it seems to accuse her of exploiting their name and orders her to leave the Roottrees alone. It's dated from a few weeks before the 5Ps article appeared in Newstime. A few weeks before the article appeared in Newstime and seems legitimate. Courtney May also discusses her mother's magazine feature in more detail. Do you know how difficult it was to convince anyone to tell our story? My mum didn't want to show her face because everyone in the media we approached assumed she was lying because her story was just like 5Ps's. But my mum's story was first. Mum... Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm getting a little shape of something going on here. Mum was advised by Ryan and Cork to tell Newstime, that sounds like it could be a legal firm, to tell Newstime that seeing 5Ps on the cover was what inspired her to go public. Oh, that's the only way Newstime would agree to it and help her get on TV, but it's not true. Our story was first. Courtney's defence continues, but much of it seems repetitive and useless. Towards the end of her page, she discusses the DNA test and defends her mother's character. My mum is amazing. She's the nicest woman in the world. She has diabetes and works at a department store, but still managed to help pay for my apartment in the big city so I could stay with my high school sweetheart. I got a degree in nursing, so I think she seems to be a nurse, so I learned about DNA in college, but I'm beginning to think it's all a lie. Mum is 100% confident there's nobody else who could be the father. Either they did the test wrong, or DNA is complete BS. She is not a liar. Wow. Okay, well, let's have a look at these photos. I feel like we've blown the lid off something here. So this is Courtney May. And that's, I guess, her mum from back in the day. And we also have a wedding photo. We've got... yeah, so he's probably a doctor. I don't put a job for him though. Or maybe maybe the blonde lady's the mum. Okay, so now this is optional, so I don't think this is going to unlock anything. It may not get locked in. Yeah, oh no, that's a nursing outfit, isn't it? Yeah, so we've got Courtney May, who is a nice... Oh, look at the red hair. Blonde mum, bright red hair. And, yeah, we haven't got the dad. She doesn't know the dad. But she is a nurse. And we also have Danny, was it? So Daniel... Oh, and what was her married name? Newton. Daniel... Newton... Oh, I think we've got this. And you know what? I think she's a Roottree. I mean, look at that red hair. Now, thinking about my reasons, I mean, we'll pop it in for now. I'm guessing I can probably change it. I think she is a Roottree. We might be able to change that depending on what we find out, but I'm beginning to think that he stole her story. His story is deeply sus. He was second. Let me just check the time on this video. Hang on. Okay, we're on the hour, so I think we'll leave it here because there's still quite a lot, I think, to sort through before we finalise. Like, I've got to go through all the evidence in Robbie and Ronnie, which, yeah, we will get to. But David... Okay, so we found more evidence. And it's all tied up with this Ruby Sprat. So what I want to do is... I may even get it in my search history just so I don't forget about it. But it's these lawyers, Ryan and Cork. Let's look them up. I wonder what they have to say for themselves. We've got a PDF. They're a North Carolinian law firm. Senior partners Winston Ryan, Gregory Cork. Local cases, represented anonymum. Website has a section about the case, including a scan of DNA test results that proved she was not a Roottree. Oh, we need to just take a quick look at this. The test says there was virtually no chance that she was a Roottree. It lists that DNA from a Jane Doe was tested against the DNA of Bonnie Hudson. Ah, shit. Okay. Bonnie Hudson's hair, who ended up in a bin. Wow. Okay. Ryan and Cork, who were representing Anonymum, have confirmed that the sample they sent to the Rootrees was definitely Courtney May's hair. So they sent Courtney May's hair, but Ruby Sprat sent God knows. So Courtney May's hair was not tested against Roottree DNA. A company called DNA Techo. Let's just Google this. I want it in kind of my database. Dynatico. Relatively new phenomenon, allows scientific laboratories, yada yada yada. According to their website, oh god, there's quite a lot here. I think because we're at the hour mark, let's read. I just kind of, this is in my spider search history now. I kind of just wanted to get it there so I didn't forget for next time. Basically, has that been added to evidence? Oh yeah, we're almost there on the evidence for him now. I think we've opened the can of worms here, but we'll delve into that properly next time and just kind of make a decision on that. But that I'm happy with that. But we need to look up Ruby Sprat as well. But they were close, they were tight, they were foster friends. So there's definitely something going on. Anyway, exciting for next time. Let's leave it there for now. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this. If you could hit the like button, that'd be fantastic. Do leave a comment as well. Let me know what you think about our progress. Do you think I'm right on poor old Courtney May and Beatrice Watts here? Do let me know. And if you're watching this and not yet subscribed to the channel, if you could do that, that'd be amazing. So thanks very much, and I hope to see you next time for probably the last episode of Roottreemania. Bye for now.